In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Falakara, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Hello, this is Jean Falakara. Welcome to the No Plan B podcast. Today I have the beast, walking beast with me, Kris Gethin. He made me the honor of being here, and I've been watching what he's doing and changing lives across the planet, not of dozens, but of millions of people out there. And you know, when he came, I opened up my camera and I see the guy walking on a treadmill, and he was like, yeah, why not? Instead of just sitting down and not burning calories, well, he never stopped. Kris, welcome to the No Plan B podcast. I'm so honored, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And likewise, I've been following what you've been doing for quite a while, so I applaud that, we're all coming together to try to put out the message of health and longevity. This weird accent comes from Wales. I grew up in Wales on a farm and left Wales in the 90s, but I grew up having quite a disciplined upbringing, would wake up early, help on the farm before going to school. And I got into individual sports at a very young age, like motocross. Was never really into team sports, didn't like the pressure on my shoulders and the requirement coming from that. I've always been a bit of a loner. And I raced motocross from a very young age, 6 years old. I think I was up until about 18, 20. Had a lot of injuries during that time. I was obviously still developing. And that's what got me into weight training, resistance training initially, because I went to a lot of specialists for the issues that I had in my back. I got quite a severe curvature of my spine. This left the line of my pelvis by about 2 inches. And went to see osteopaths, chiropractors, massage therapists. Nothing could help until I started doing physiotherapy, and that resistance training applied stress and load onto my muscles instead of my skeleton and my joints and namely my spine. So that's what got me addicted to weight training, because it made me feel good. I was dealing with depression because my identity had become motocross, and I'd become quite addicted to adrenaline. And when I didn't have that adrenaline or that identity, I lost my way for several years. I started drinking a lot of alcohol. I was doing recreational drugs. And that was the only way I could kind of mask the issues that I was dealing with. But when I got alleviated of the pain, and now I started researching nutrition along with training and supplementation, all of a sudden I started to feel so much better mentally as well. And I found that I was able to retain that content very efficiently. So I decided to go to college for several years and study international health and sports therapy. This was in the mid-90s. And that's what took me on my journey within resistance training and physical transformations. And it was kind of like by accident that I came to that. And then many years later, just to fast forward, it was by accident I got into the quote unquote biohacking world in 2014, when I got very, very sick a couple of years before that with mold toxicity. And I didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what mold toxicity was.
Even today, only the biohacking community knows, but
further from that, not much. And it wasn't until I got diagnosed at Dr. Spanaub's clinic in Oldsmar, Florida, who deals with a lot of mold and Lyme's disease, etc., that he was able to diagnose me. And that's when I really started going down the rabbit hole of biohacking, looking to see, that there's molds in chocolate, in wine, in coffee, all these grains and all these things that I never really realized. So that's when I really started to look into the sources of the food and the supplementation and lifestyle to make me feel better and detox, because one of the major symptoms that I had was sleep. I was not,
of course,
all 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a good person to be around after having 3 hours of sleep a night. And I knew that I didn't really recognize myself. So I'd been looking at optimizing myself as much as possible and trying to reduce my biological age, because I then later found out that the bodybuilding lifestyle, even though I've always competed as a natural bodybuilder, wasn't the healthiest. Eating the 6 meals a day, overtraining, stressing like the mTOR pathways and not enough of the AMPK. So that's how I kind of started wriggled my way into the health optimization world.
And with the all unbalanced hormones and everything that goes along with that, So I'm going to rewind back to the motocross when you were a kid, adrenaline rush. We have a similar parkour on that. I was a loner as well, same. And it can show by the tattoos you have in the long run. You're coming from the country where actually you had the chance to have the punk movement starting. So you were probably part of that. And of course, that punk movement, was along with all the drugs that comes with the package deal there. The music and everything, the alcohol and the lack of sleep and the pose, dances and stuff like that. You became addicted to the sport for the reason that it was taking you off the struggle of the society or the struggle of being with yourself?
I'd say it was a bit of both. I knew where I was in mid Wales around on the farm. I didn't feel like I really belonged there. I was always a little bit different. I'd have, later in life, I think I've always had like different types of pets, like a wild cat. And, I'd drive different types of cars. Back then, they were all customized Beetles and campers because I was really into surfing as well. And I just didn't fit in. I knew there was something else. And unfortunately, I just couldn't find that social circumstance within mid Wales that I was craving. And so I'd say it was a little bit of both because the social circumstance wasn't there. I never really fell into any type of clique in school, so I was a bit of a loner there. All I wanted to be was I just wanted to be at home on the farm with animals and with my motorbike and with my BMX, and that was it. That's all the company that I needed. And luckily I do have friends, but a lot of them are overseas. I'm closest to people that are usually furthest away from me. I'm very close to my family, but they're on the other side of the world, and maybe that's how my life needs to be. It has to have some separation, much like if I fly on a plane, I have to have the aisle seats. I cannot have it's just knowing that escape is there is very comforting for me.
Yeah, I see. I understand that grind. It's like you like people, you like friendship, but as long as they don't step too much into your intimacy, your circle of protection. And I got that. Is like, well, it's a sign of highly intellectual activity as well, because you need to nourish yourself before nourishing others. So that social restriction, like a blood restriction, you do is probably more because you need to understand what is happening in your brain and maybe gather the information that you're getting from your environment. No wonder that then you started to study more and more into nutrition and stuff like that. Makes sense to me. Totally, completely. And I think that's why you became who you are today. So the grind of coming from a farm, riding dirt bikes, which is dangerous, I know that too, and getting into the gym, being a loner, and then there is a shift because you cannot be a loner and influence hundreds of millions of people across the world if you are just centered on your close sphere. So what happened there? How did you get open to helping others?
Yeah, great question. So I'll have to go back a little bit. So when I got my qualifications as a sports therapist and a nutritionist, I started helping people one-on-one. And I guess, there wasn't a commitment to friendship. There had to be an authoritative figure, and that was me. So it created a little bit of separation there. I didn't want to be too familiar, obviously, with my clients because maybe I'd lose my authority in doing so. So that helped. And then I moved to Australia. I worked on cruise liners for a while as a personal trainer and massage therapist because I had all my massage therapy qualifications as well. And then I decided to move to Australia for a little while because I thought, Australia seems cool. Let's go there.
Yeah.
And after about 2 years of being a personal trainer there, I was quite successful. I purchased my own gym. And when I had my own gym there, now I didn't feel as good. There was too many people around me. There wasn't that separation. And it was during that time I started to realize, hold on, I could reach out to more people through magazines. Internet didn't exist then. So I purchased a book called Merriam-Webster's Book on Journalistic Writing. So I taught myself how to write. And then I taught myself how to shoot pictures as well of basically athletes to accompany content that I'd submit. And so I started submitting that content all around the world to various magazines, and it started to get published. And I thought, wow, I actually enjoy this much much more than actually one-on-one training in person. So I started to I guess, propel myself within that realm. So I decided to sell everything on Australia, move to Venice, California.
Nice place.
And see if I could get myself a contract with Weeder Publications, which was the largest back then that had Muscle and Fitness, Fitness magazine, etc. And within 6 months, I got myself a job there. But now I was still kind of behind the camera. I was behind the scenes. My name was being written there, but there was no face. And I was very, very comfortable with that. I then got a job opportunity as the editor-in-chief of bodybuilding.com back in 2007 because I was submitting content to them as well for a couple of years. So then I got that job. But Ryan DeLuca, who was the founder of bodybuilding.com, this was the largest international health and fitness website back then. It was massive. Yeah, over 200,000 people, unique visitors every day. Website. And it was at that time, Ryan DeLuca said, well, you compete in natural bodybuilding shows. You do know how to get in shape. We need to film a video series on you. And I was very, very reluctant, but I was the only person, there was only 30 of us in the office then, who was actually competing. So I was followed every day for 12 weeks, going through a transformation, how to get ripped, how to get, put on muscle, blah, blah, blah. So that's how I was kind of pushed in front of the camera. I didn't like it in the beginning, but then I got quite comfortable. And I know why I feel comfortable. It's because like when I do seminars or if I do talks or if I'm in front of the camera, I'm in front of people and not with people.
That's being different,
and the two-way interaction is a little bit tougher for me. So if I have to go to an expo and I'm at a booth, it's a little difficult. I just find that energy interaction and exchange is very exhausting for me. So after an event, a lot of people will go out for dinners or they'll go party and go whatever. I'm the person that goes straight back to my hotel because I have to detox and offload all that energy, which is very exhausting for me. So that's how the transition happened. And I'm very comfortable, like talking to you right now. This is great. I love this. And, I do have a social circle and sometimes it changes, I trim the fat, but I've got a great social circle. But a lot of the people that I'll speak to are at biohacking events or bodybuilding events that I'm very, very close with. But that's pretty much as far as it goes. But that's how that transition happened. And I guess sometimes I can feel more lonely in a room of, say, 100, 500 people than being by myself. I can feel very lonely in those situations.
Yeah, and I got that. And even when you speak in front of 500 people with the light in front of you, you don't even feel that those people are just like there. And the interaction of one-on-one is more difficult, is more draining. I kind of understand what you're saying. Like, I would bet that you're giving a phone call of an hour talk. It's not your cup of tea either, like being on the phone of course. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like at school, if I was asked to stand up in front of the school and talk, I hated it. I really, really didn't like that. I didn't want the attention, but now I don't mind because I feel that there's a purpose behind it. When I was in school, I didn't understand why we're talking about geography or religious education or English. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't know why I was there, but now I understand my purpose. So now I find it a little bit easier to talk in front of people.
Wow. Do you think that you found your ikigai?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, because I feel very blessed where I am. I have to stop every now and again because I am very dopamine driven. So I'm always go. I wake up.
I can see that.
Sympathetic dominant for sure. And I have to go. So it's very difficult for me to slow down and, zen myself and ground myself to say, okay, you're in a great position, but I do take advantage of it, knowing that we have social platforms now. I don't allow social platforms use me. I use it to reach out to more people because I wish when I was growing up in Wales, instead of looking at a magazine and going, okay, there's a fit person, he must take that supplement. Now we're able to engage and ask these questions and educate. So, I do feel very, very blessed and lucky that this is my purpose because I had a lot of jobs. I worked on a building site. I worked in a wood furniture warehouse. I worked as a driver. I worked on doors, as like a dancer. I had so many jobs because I just didn't know what my purpose was.
I find the right one. Yeah.
I feel that I found it. I feel very blessed and happy. So I want to take advantage of it and reach out and to help other people like, me growing up on that in Wales.
Yeah, but that's very cool. Rare are the people on this planet that they found their ikigai. And I think that life on purpose is the goal of every life out there. It's interesting. Now I'm going to ask you a personal question is, were you uncomfortable in society because of your physical appearance or not? Because today, when you can show up and like even naked, people are just like, holy smoke, like you're shredded. It's not even the word. We need to define a new word for that. So was that the unbalance, if I may ask?
Oh, yeah, of course you can ask. I guess there was, maybe not so much in the beginning, but there definitely was a little bit afterwards, because people that are into physical aesthetics and building their bodies, we all deal with some sort of body dysmorphia, much like the anorexic person who feels that they're fat or bulimic.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of bodybuilders have had that in their past. They've either had lack of confidence, they've had, they've been bullied in school. And so, we create this shell around us. And I think it was a form of confidence issues for me. I just didn't feel confident enough. Even though I'd have people around me, reaffirming that I am doing a good thing, I am doing well, I just didn't believe it. I didn't know why. I felt like I was a bit of a phony. I was a bit of a fake. I don't know how I got this far. This must be luck.
Yeah.
And I guess, to a certain degree, creating this shell around me was like a bit of a force field that kind of protected me to a certain degree. I thought, well, if this can't carry me, maybe this can, or maybe collectively they will.
Yeah. And what do you mean?
Yeah, I think it was something more along those lines than anything else. I still have that.
What about it?
Like take off my top or wear a tank top in the gym because I like to be covered up. And I think for me, a lot of people got into weight training because they love the appearance of it or the aesthetics of it, or getting into bodybuilding. I got into bodybuilding because I love weight training. That's the difference.
That's the difference. That's a huge difference. Like many people do like pumping for pumping, but you do it for the effort of doing it. It's a big difference. To go back to the feeling of being off there, maybe it's the syndrome of imposter, that well-known syndrome for people that are successful. And it could be that today, because you are successful, you are recognized, you are admired, and you do real shit, like solid stuff. I've seen people that you've transformed from almost impossible to more than decent and standing out persons in their life. So you bring that feeling of making something happen and making something real to people that have probably lost faith before. And that is more than rewarding. And that it's probably nourishing as well, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And the imposter syndrome that you mentioned is you hit the nail on the head there, because sometimes I think, God, how did I get here? Why am I asked to do this talk here? And it's not until you get a round of applause, you're like, okay, well, maybe I should be here. But following up from that, what I really like about the transformations of my clients is that we know it's all from the neck up. It's not from the neck down. We think it's genetics. We think it's circumstances. It comes down to that person controlling their environment and not being controlled by it, because we can use any excuses out there, such as, we were we were in traffic, we were on the runway, on the plane.
I don't have time. As simple as that.
I don't have time. There was nowhere for me to warm up my meals, blah, blah, blah. It carries on. But some of these people who have maybe hold down 2 jobs, they're a single mother of 3 children, but they still have an amazing transformation because that's their purpose, that's their will, and they're willing to control their environment, which is here. As opposed to allowing this environment, again, to control them. It's nothing to do with outside circumstances. And I think the more that we can realize that within our lives, that we do have control, because we separate both of these things. The control is for big marketing or big pharma or the food supply. That is what we're losing this battle with, and the remote control, the couch.
Of course, yes.
But it's comforting. And as we know, in this society, as we become more comfortable, we're getting sicker, and we have to do something. That's why I always tell my clients, start your morning off with hard stuff. Whether that's going out, even if it's raining, your skin is waterproof, it's okay. Go out for a walk.
Yeah.
Start off with an ice bath or cold shower if you've got that available to you. Get in the ice bath. Start off with hard stuff, and the rest of the day will be easy, because there will be a time in our lives that we will be much more fragile, and we're going to find it so much harder. So start now. Don't wait till Monday. Don't wait till January 1st.
Yeah, when it's not reversible or hardly reversible after. That there is this type of people, and more. I was talking to a doctor before, and I was saying, like, after those millions of years of evolution, we're actually going devolution or non-evolution. As species, we should be better, not weaker. And unfortunately, our society is creating more and more weak people that are expecting a pill to solve their problem. Like you said, take a walk after a meal. Most people, they will take a pill to make them digest. That shouldn't be that way. It should be the natural way. And this is the whole problem. But to get there, now you mentioned something that is super important. It's up here, that it's starting and happening most of the time. I've heard from scientists, and I'm part of this community, and I'm not always in agreement with them, but I've heard that you cannot change the mind of people, but you do that, and you succeed into that. Why and how?
It's neuroplasticity, isn't it? Neuroplasticity, just like we can change the shape or grow a muscle, the brain is no different. If we create new habits, if we read more, then, much like me picking up that book of Merriam-Webster's book of journalistic writing, well, I can write now. I can write in a journalistic manner. And it's just like with anything else. We didn't learn how to start a podcast from nothing. We created it and built upon it, and now we started it. It's just like learning to play the guitar. You learn these new techniques, and now you can play a tune. And you can do that with yourself. For instance, if your habits were to eat a croissant in the morning, well, you're not going to learn to play the guitar overnight. It may take 6 months. And it's the same with the consistency. Every morning, maybe you'll eat a little bit less of that croissant and you'll replace it with something healthier, or be a bulletproof coffee or whatever it may be. Then that is going to be your new realm. That's going to be your new habit, and that's the new tune that you're going to be able to play for yourself. Neuroplasticity, we know that there's certain foods that we can apply and supplements that help with neuroplasticity. Right. And that's the one thing that I love about getting into nutrition and training, is that not only did I feel better physically, I felt better mentally. And when I started going into the biohacking world, changing the sources of the food that I was consuming, the inflammation that I had in my tendons and in my joints that I thought was just a byproduct of heavy weight training, a byproduct of the lack of source nutrition that I was consuming. Because when I started looking at the sources of the food that I was consuming, all that inflammation went away. My weight training didn't change at all. So of course, if we're feeding our body, we can feed our brain to learn new things and adapt and change.
Yeah, it's a long process for sure. You have to be ready for it and have the will to do it, of course. Some people, so I assume that people that comes to you in order to get into transformation, they are ready for that. But do you had any experience, and you probably had any experiences with people just giving up after 1 week, 2 weeks, 2 months, maybe not 2 months because it's already there, but in a couple of days or a couple of weeks after they started? So how do you handle that?
A couple of weeks for sure, because people realize or understand how difficult it is until they start. And we all start with the best intentions. We may look at a picture of someone and go, wow, look at that six-pack. I'm going to look like that, until they understand, okay, that success came from sacrifice. Now I'm in this sacrifice stage, so I want to bail out because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we have to get very comfortable being uncomfortable and enjoying that and applying it and embracing it. And, up front, I always try to explain as best as I can to my clients, this is not going to be easy. It's not 5 days a week, it's 7 days a week, and you're going to have to be very committed, especially in the beginning, because the beginning is the boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
The boot camp for the rest of your life. After you get through the boot camp period, it is easier. You know, it's much like
because you're free. Yeah.
Army. Yeah, like the special forces. They have to go through Hell Week in order to go through the rest of, you know, the deployment, which is kind of hellish, but nowhere near as hard because they've been through the hardest part. So the rest is easy. Just like I said earlier, wake up and do hard stuff in the morning. The rest of the day is going to be easier. So the first few weeks, just like the first few seconds in an ice bath, is usually the hardest. Once you get through the first few weeks or few seconds, it is so much easier. And the main thing is, you know, I believe what we need to apply for people that are dealing with the hardship in the beginning is accountability and support. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing. We can give them all the education. We can give them the tools. But if we're not there to help them fix themselves every single day, then that's going to be the hardest part. So, for instance, with my coaching, I do have a group dynamic and a one-on-one dynamic where everybody is part of a WhatsApp group. People can post their videos and, you know, share their struggles that they're having on a Saturday or, you know, today following Halloween because everyone was
of course having sugar rush.
You know, yeah, exactly. So having that transparency and that accountability provides so much more support because they don't feel alone. Because we all feel that we're dealing with these struggles alone and no one else is. But once we feel, okay, there's a support group and a community here that can help, then it is so much easier. It's much, you know, I've done several Ironman triathlons. Yeah, they're difficult. But when you're out there on a track and everyone's supporting each other and encouraging each other, it makes the pain so much easier. And I think you get a lot of, you create much more friendships through suffering.
Yeah. So the $1 million question is, you know the process, but when you decided to start lifting weight and moving from there, who supported you? You were alone.
I was alone. I think, you know, but today, even today, I find a lot of interaction and engagement for myself personally. I love music. Through records and through books. I'm closer to a lot of people through records than books. And I use that as my support than I have with interaction. Now, I'm not like everybody else. Mm-hmm. The majority of people aren't like that, but I do understand the majority of people do like that human touch. But for me, I didn't really need that. You know, I would read the magazines from front to back, you know, the fitness magazines, and read the books like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia. And that was my support. That was my encouragement because I didn't have it at home, and it was definitely not the internet. You know, when I competed in my very first bodybuilding show, my parents didn't even know I was getting ready for one until I came back home, you know, looking orange because I couldn't scrub the tan off. You know, they were cool, they're supportive, but I knew that they wouldn't understand. So there's no reason in trying to explain it.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have a younger sister by 9 years. Yeah, she's over visiting me right now.
Nice. Okay. So interesting. She lives out there or?
No, they're all in Wales. Very few of us escape Wales, mate. So my entire family are there, and still most of them are farmers, you know? So very hard-working family.
Okay. Interesting. So say hello to the sister. And the question for you, you talk about the biohacking. Okay, the biohacking community is fairly kind of shifting to a wider movement today for one reason. And I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everyone, including Dave Asprey or Ben Greenfield or our friend Brian Johnson, that is the extreme. First of all, do you think that biohacking is just accessible for rich people? And the second question I have is, don't you think that biohacking is shifting away because it's been too demanding on the structure of the pattern and the routine that it imposes to people? You are a fierce biohacker. You're using every single things that are available out there. But what's your take on that? What do you think?
It isn't just for rich people, for sure, but I know that people who have disposable income bastardize biohacking a little bit too much because they're not willing to put in the work. You know, of course, red light therapy has its place, maybe in winter, maybe when you're traveling. But if you do have the exposure of sun available to you, then that's number one, much like grounding. You know, I'll wear, you know, grounding trainers a lot of the time, especially when I'm traveling, or if it's winter here in Idaho and I'm taking the dog out for a walk. But whenever possible, I'm going to take my shoes and socks off. Saying like, we've got the red blue light blocking glasses, right? But if you can switch off the lights and exactly. Or have light bulbs that are zero. Like the upstairs of my bedroom looks like a brothel because I've got the red lights up there, then, take advantage of it. But I think a lot of people are too quick to go for the shiny objects and the expensive stuff because that's where they feel that they're going to get the more value. And it's just the human psyche. If I charge a client a certain amount of money for, say, a seminar, chances are I know that the percentage of people that have committed are going to show up. However, if I do a seminar that's free, now probably about 20 or 30 people are going to show up because they don't feel that they're getting value. It's just the way that their brain unfortunately works. And the direction that the biohacking is going, I think it's been bastardized a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
So the word is thrown out there, if I speak up with people about biohacking, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. It has been, it's been bastardized a little bit too much. But like, I am very conscious at having balance in everything that I do. So, of course, I'll use, for instance, the brain tap a lot of the time when I'm traveling. I love it because it puts into a place. It's like somebody is forcing me to meditate, and I like that. I want to be forced upon because otherwise I have the monkey mind that goes around a little bit.
ADHD.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've gone away and I've done 10-day Vipassanas, silent retreats, and that's a great reason.
Yeah.
You every now and again, you're meditating from 6 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the evening, no eye contact, you're not allowed to talk, can't take anything to read, obviously cannot take a vitamin there. And I think it's good to do that like once a year, once every now and again. But after a few weeks, we're back in a real world, and it's very important that we practice that application and sometimes use today's technology to help us, I guess, get into that meditative state.
Yeah, I so agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think there has to be a balance within it. And I do encourage everybody, of course, we can use these fasting mimicking supplements.
But it's better to do it naturally.
Exactly. Of course. Do the natural first. There's no reason why you can go out there and purchase the icing on the cake if you haven't built the cake ingredients first, roll up your sleeves, because that is actually how our ancestors lived. And we look at a lot of the centenarians around the world, they're not doing a lot of these biohacks, but they're doing ancestral biohacks. We know that purpose is a big part of it. In Okinawa, they don't have a word for retirement.
No.
There's no such thing. So, that is going to be our biggest purpose. And I'd say the one thing where I'm going to fail the most is maybe community, because we know that community is a big aspect. But I feel that this is a big part of it for me. And everybody's individual.
It is, the community aspect is actually linked to the empathy factor of being like involved in compassion and things like that. But you have it because you're helping people. So even if you're not directly involved in a community like that, you are with your group of people that are doing your trainings. So you have it. I wanted actually to take you on the dark side of the biohacking, where I've seen in the recent years several vets of the biohacking industry falling into depression because they were like, I'm waking up in the morning, I have to run to the sun to watch the sun, then take my shoes off, come back, have some red light therapy, put my ass in a cold bath, then go on a sauna, and I have no time to live. And these guys, they fall into depression, and it's sad because the origin of this movement was to improve life, not to destroy it. And I think that back to natural, like you said before, that's the secret of it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm laughing as you're saying this and smiling because I fell back into that exact realm, that routine that you just mentioned, where I honestly thought that I had mold toxicity again while I was in India recently, because I got mold toxicity from there originally in 2012. And the symptoms were coming back where I wasn't sleeping. I was waking up every 35, 45 minutes. I did organic acids test. I could see that I had hypoxia of the mitochondria. I was going through all my dopamine from the morning to night. depleting myself by nighttime. And my noradrenaline as well just started off with plenty in the morning, gone by the end of the day. But it wasn't through physical excess, it's through mental excess because of the stress that I was dealing with. So I completely changed my lifestyle over the past couple of weeks. We're now in the morning, instead of utilizing a lot of the physical energy, mental energy, on stress and about the red light, the ice bath, sauna, and work and clients, I would now use that as my physical outlet. So, of course, I'd start off with the morning with my cup of coffee, but then I'd go and do my workout. Then I'd do my cardio. Then, if I felt like it, I'd do maybe one or two of the modalities, such as a sauna and ice bath. But I get the lights in, that's fine.
That's fine. You're not going to die because you skipped one, Yeah,
exactly. And that's about it. And instead of training 5 days a week, I've pulled my training back down to 3 days a week now.
Wow.
I made one or two of my training sessions now is with like the Catalyst vest, like the EMS. So
nice. Very cool.
I don't even have to go to the gym. Yeah. And already my sleep is improved dramatically. Would you believe it? When I was going through my darkest time over just a few weeks ago, my sleep and readiness was around 25. It was that low. Never have I had it this low. And I was getting very angry, very, very quick.
Of course, yeah.
And now, I was delighted to wake up this morning with 80s sleep, which is going in the right direction. I'm usually getting 90s, and my readiness was in the 94, 95. So just through that, but no interventions, no supplemental interventions, diet interventions. I've increased my carbohydrates because there's a few too many ketones in my urine, And now it's changing already, and it's all come from up here. Yeah. It's all from up here because we are, I guess, biohackers or people that are obsessive to a certain thing, whether that be our health, our longevity. We can become obsessed where we can actually reduce our biological
That's the thing.
Increase our biological age by stressing over these hacks that we're trying to do to reduce it.
Yeah, that was the catch-21 that I was just like, I started to implement those routine when I moved to Boston, and I was like my wife and my daughter were in Canada, so I had time. Then they joined me, and I was just like, holy smoke, I have no time for my family. And I was falling in the same pit as well. And it's always it makes me laugh because I don't think that any extreme brings us to the extreme life that people are chasing so hardly. So you remember this guy, Don't Die. I think so we're all going to die one day. It's what you do in between that is the most important. And living without stress is one of the factors that should be considered. But the second is what you're doing is helping others to feel better, live longer, healthier, fitter. And there's an increasing capacity for your business in our society. Like obesity is going up to 54% of the American population. That's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is insane. And I think we just, we have to have aligned perception, because sometimes our perception is warped. And we think sometimes, we try to get other people to think like us. It doesn't work that way. We try to force it upon others. And, when my wife said to me a couple of weeks ago, I could just tell something's not right. You're getting very upset very quickly. And when you have someone else's perception, now you can decide if you want to be in denial of other people's actions or perceptions, or you can acknowledge it. And I acknowledged it. I completely agreed with everything that she said. Said, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. Now I have to do something about it. I have to apply myself. And, much like if you read a book, then you can apply it to reach you to, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are just students of learning, but not application. Correct. And you have to apply what you learn. You have to, if you want to propel yourself further. And luckily, that's what I've just started to do over like I said, just the past few weeks. Sometimes, we fall off track. We all do. We're humans. We have to acknowledge, be aware, and that perception allows us to apply.
But you've done that your whole life, in fact, because since the beginning. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so sometimes you fall into the habits of not getting there, but you've been doing that since you were a kid, because this is what built you and made you who you are today. Okay, I'm going to shift to a very personal question on that. When I look at the way that you're built up, muscularly speaking, you're super solid. Have you ever used any testosterone and things like that, growth hormones and things like that? And if yes or if not, what is your take on that?
I think it has its place. Going back to me, my testosterone levels, I've only had a dip once, and that was when I had COVID, but I had long COVID, and I noticed that my testosterone levels had dropped significantly, and they dropped for quite a while. It dropped for about 6 months, but then after a while, it started to kind of bounce back. Of course, I've taken a lot of, I'd say, supplemental forms that help with testosterone production. Try to stay away from, I protect myself as much as I can from EMF.
Yeah.
So I'll, like the Get Lambs, like boxer shorts.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have the Faraday blankets when I'm traveling, etc. Stay away from microwaves, plastics, phthalates, stuff like that. So I found that my testosterone levels were able to bounce back pretty good. And they're like 726 right now. And I'm 49 years old. I'm quite happy with that. So I don't feel
free.
Yeah. At the age of 50 or more, I may have to go on TRT, but I'm keeping I keep a close eye on it. I'm looking at it every 6 months or so.
Okay.
I've taken a growth form of secretagogue. I think it was tesamorelin. I took that for a little while. Didn't make me feel any better, any different, so I stopped doing that. It's quite expensive.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll try a few things just to see if it has any benefits. I'd say the only peptide that's had a great benefit for me has been, I've tried GHKCU, didn't get out, but BBC 107 was like definitely the number one for me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Not everybody feels it, but I feel it both from an oral for gut dexterity or gut health, and an injectable for, obviously, I've gone through a lot of injuries. A lot of those injuries aren't from the gym. They're actually outside of the gym: snowboarding, motocross, mountain biking, downhill mountain biking, surfing, etc. I like to participate in a lot of those sports. When you're in a gym, I think you're focused on your form or on your primary movement, so you don't really injure yourself as much. It's the element of surprise outside of the gym that generally injures us. So that is the only thing that I feel that I've had the need to take. And stem cells. I've gone overseas.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Stem cells seems to...
I've gone to Mexico, and stem cells have been life-changing for me.
Yeah, they are. I think that today one of the, personal take on that, but one of the great supplement by injection is probably NAD.
NAD. I do that 2 days on, 1 day off. I do the sub-Q injection.
Yeah.
Do the NAD3 supplemental form every single day.
Perfect. Yeah. I do that too as well. I was curious about that. It's like I see so many people in the gym like pushing on testosterone or so hard, but it doesn't go in the right direction. They insist by injecting themselves with that, and I think that should probably be more regulated in a way or the other.
Especially in the US here, because you have a lot of these telemedicine places popping up everywhere. Yeah. And, I don't know how legit they all are. It seems like too many have popped up a little bit too soon. And, when I ask people that are taking TRT at what I believe is a relatively young age, a lot of the time they're lacking in sleep. They're not managing their stress levels. They don't care what kind of deodorants or skincare products that they put on themselves, or what cleaning products that they're using in their home, in their laundry detergents, and all of these are endocrine disruptors. So I believe a lot more people are on TRT these days because they're exposed to so many of these phthalates and plastics and pollutants in the air and on the outside of their home, inside of the home. And then, look, we could go down a rabbit hole of EMS and Wi-Fi and satellite signals. I think they're all contributing factors.
Yeah, definitely. I think that yesterday France banned the last iPhone because of the EMF.
The iPhone 13, I believe it was.
Oh, that was the iPhone. See? Yeah. Well, interesting.
Right. And there's actually been 42 phones before that have been banned as well. Not just sort of models, because of high radiation risk.
Yeah, imagine.
And that's why earthing is so important for us as well on a daily basis. I notice, people do think it's a bit woo-woo, but I know when I was in Mumbai last year, I was earthing myself in the morning, walking the beach, basically. I was walking the beach, and I found that my sleep still wasn't as good as it should be. It's never as good in hotels. But when I started earthing myself, not only in the morning, but at nighttime before bed as well, my sleep drastically improved. Because, we're in a populated environment. I'm staying in a hotel.
And everywhere. Wi-Fi. Yeah.
It's not a placebo effect because I'm sleeping. So it can't be a placebo effect. But when I'm measuring my sleep score, it did drastically improve. And I think that's why it is so important for us to allow a lot of these EMFs, these non-native EMFs, to penetrate through us and not just into us.
Yeah, good point. Absolutely. They've been contested for so many years before. Now it's starting to be accepted the way it should be. I agree. But this is like with everything. First, everybody says like it's not true, it doesn't exist. And then we end up by knowing that it is true.
For sure. It's invisible, isn't it? And that's why people
that's the thing.
In any regard. And much like, to begin with, say it happened with the tobacco community. And then recently it happened with vaping. Oh, that's the safer alternative. But now we're having people with collapsed lung, with popcorn lung because of that. And now people are starting to take notice and start to ban some of these brands.
Yeah, or like the oils and things like that.
That oil, the chemical, and the heat together is causing the problem. Maybe signally, by themselves, they're not causing issues. But then as soon as you combine that with the heat, the acid into your lungs, now we've got problems.
This is one of the interesting points. In Western medicine, we think that we have the secret sauce of everything, that we can cure everything. But traditional Chinese medicine is exactly what you said, mixing stuff, seeing the reaction, and they have like millions of people that have been using that before. But the Western medicine still contests the validity of Chinese medicine and herbal medicine and things like that, because they say like there's no track record, there is no proofs. And I think our society is exactly reflecting that. Do you think that it's because of the scientific community?
Yeah, I think it is. But I think it should come down to that individual. Now, not everybody is going to feel the effects of, say, acupuncture. But for those that do, then why not? Then you apply it. It's like when I was in Amsterdam recently at the speaking at an event there. Before I got on a plane to come back, I went and had Japanese acupuncture, and it was great, because I know that when I'm sat in a position for a certain amount of time, like being on a 12-hour flight, that really screws up my back so that is a great preventative for me. So then if that works, then why not apply it? There's going to be a lot of people out there that says, well, there's no scientific proof. I don't care.
It works.
Not exactly what's going to go in my book. And I think that's what we have to all understand. Not every book is going to apply to you. So maybe you're going to take a chapter from that book and maybe a couple of pages from that book, and then you write your own, and that's what's going to fit you as an individual.
I love it. Is it the way that you teach you train your clients, because they're all different? You don't have one pattern and one workout type that fits everyone. Oh,
yeah, of course. Of course, everyone's going to be different. Everyone has different insertions and attachments to somebody else, and some people are going to have completely different lifestyle demands. If that person is working very hard, they're not sleeping well, then I'm not going to get that person to train 5-6 days a week. Maybe that we're going to train 3 days a week, and that's going to be more beneficial for them. Everybody is different in that regards. And some people actually like you to be very, very authoritative. Some people need to have an empathetic or sympathetic ear and encouragement. That's why the team dynamic never really worked for me, because you have to speak to each player individually, not as a team, to really get them to work and focus and understand what they're doing, why they're doing it.
Yeah, that's so true. You're so inspiring, Kris. I love what you do. It's fantastic. I love the guy behind the scene there. You're awesome from the ground up to who you are almost at 50 today. Keep going that way. I was so honored to have you on my podcast. I cannot thank you enough. It was a great pleasure. I'm going to get all the information to our public where they can find you, but they can find you because you are everywhere. But what's the best place to reach out to you? Your website or Instagram?
Instagram. I'm very engaging on there. Yeah, if they do go to my website, they'll have to send me an email, which is fine. But yeah, Instagram is probably the best place, and that's Kris, Kris Gethin, Gethin. But I want to say it's an absolute honor for me to be on your show. Like I said, I've been following you and your work for a little while now, so to be on this platform and to connect is my honor too. Thank you.
Thank you, Kris. It was awesome pleasure having you here. And next step for me is to have you in the magazine, because that's something I really want. It's definitely some things we need to discuss after, but I want you to have an article there and that people can read, not just listen to.
Absolutely. That's where my beginnings were.
I know, that's why.
Application. I absolutely love that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kris. It was awesome. Thank you, guys. Stay tuned. This video is going to be released on all the platforms as usual.